I just feel that there's some extra hype that is created around software development jobs, but it's kind of normal job. We are normal people. We laugh, we share memes, right? So it was like I just went to college. Now I don't know what to do next. But in DSA, I do not suggest to go through the tutorials at all because
Okay, so let us call upon for this very first episode of That's My Role, Rishika Gupta. Hey Rishika, thank you so much for coming up for this conversation about software developer and software development role, DSA and everything. Thank you so much for accepting the invite.
yeah, thank you so much, Mansi, for inviting me. I'm really very excited for the conversation, and yeah, I would love to have a conversation with you. Yeah.
So whenever this student, or when children come from class 12 to the role of the course of BTech, there is this one role that comes into a lot of hype whenever a student's there is specifically in CS and IT, is the role of software developer, right? We all get to know that okay, there is this lot of money that has come around in this role, and then a lot of people kind of get attracted towards this role and exactly do not know what happens behind the scene and start preparing for that. To break this hype and to break what actually happens behind the scene and let everyone know about this role, we are doing up this conversation, and for that reason I'm going to ask you this very first question, which is so much relatable to all the people who want to be a software developer, who are actually preparing for this role and want to get into this particular role, right? So the question looks like that. I actually want to know that what a day looks like for a software developer. Is it all full of coding? Because a lot of people kind of misinterpret that, since we are doing
True.
DSA, since we are doing a lot of data structures and algorithms, which is kind of a prerequisite that we all kind of know up till now. So is the day looks like full of coding or stuff, or do we have something else?
Yeah, so I totally agree with you, Mansi, that yeah, there's a lot of hype regarding software development, and most of the students who come into computer science and information technology branch in BTech, they usually look up this particular domain for their jobs, and I think this is because of unawareness of all the various type of domains that are available in IT sector. And thank you so much to you for starting this series to aware people about all the various domains available as a career option. For your question that how a day-to-day work look like in software development, no, it is not just about coding, not at all. So the first step of building any software is you have to properly brainstorm about it and you have to properly document it. Like, it's not just that you have think about the solution and you have started the coding. No, it's not like that, because in a company you have to work in a team. So to have a better communication with your team, you should have a proper document about all the all the solution that you are thinking of, and then brainstorm together to understand the pros and cons of all the solution, and then finalize the final solution that you are going to code. So the very first step itself is not at all related to coding, right? It start with the documentation part, and that is a no non I would say non coding skill, or a soft skill in a way, because it's about communication, how better you are able to communicate your idea in papers. So that is the first step. Then you start with your coding and the implementation part, where you actually do the coding stuff, and do the testing, and push your code to production, then get feedback from users, and then reiterate and do all those software development cycle processes. But after that, you again have to properly document all the things that you have done in your ramping, production ramping, and how you get feedback from the user, because for every project there's a different type of ramp strategy, and how you are reiterating with your development or your projects. So with every project the process is completely different. So it's not just about that solving DSA is completely mapped to what a day-to-day look like in software development. It's very different, and it's even very subjective from team to team and company to company. For example, if I talk about myself, I have worked as a product intern with LinkedIn, with Adobe, and as a software development intern also with LinkedIn, and now as a full time with LinkedIn. So in Adobe, my like core work was building core libraries in Adobe, which is being used by many of their clients like Photoshop, Lightroom, etc. So the tech stack was related to C++, and now I have jumped into Java. And now I work in like user centric products which are directly impacting users. So the two type of projects I work with are completely different, and that is why the RAM strategy and brainstorming on those problems were completely different. So yeah, a day to day work look like you have to document, and then what you have documented you have to properly code it, and then you have to analyze all the feedbacks and iterate over the over the project. Yeah.
Okay, so that looks like really awesome, and thank you so much for breaking this myth of students that software developer is equal to coding, which is actually not.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to know about what are the soft skills which would be required for to become, which would be required not necessarily, but which is essential kind of for being a software developer. What was the soft skills you would suggest?
Yeah, so I joined virtually. So for me, the biggest soft skill which is required at this point of time is communication. How well you are able to communicate your idea, how well you are able to put your idea into words, so that there should be no confusion between you and your manager and your other teammates around the solution that you are going to do. Because it's very sad if you are if you are aware about all the loopholes after implementing your solution. It will be like you were not properly able to communicate at the start of the at the start of your project. So
Yeah,
it's again it's something like you wasted your time because you were not able to communicate it well. So the biggest soft skill for me was communication skills. But I would say documentation at the same time. Communication is a big umbrella in itself. There is like two type of communication, you can say. One is the documentation and documentation part, and second is the your meeting or your verbal communication or your text based
yeah,
communication, right?
exactly.
So both type of communication you should be very well versed with them, because if there is some kind of mismatch or misunderstanding, then your whole project will suffer because of that. It's not
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
about your coding
And
part and how
also,
good with your yeah.
yeah, true. And also team management and working up with the team is
True,
also
true, true.
secondly true a
Right.
thing that everyone should know while getting into this role. If you are an
Yeah.
individual player, if you are not a team player, I
True.
think software development is not going to pay you well that way.
Even sometimes, even like, it's not always the case that you're working in a team project. Most of the time you work on individual OKRs and individual projects, but even in those individual projects you need help from your teammates. Because
Hmm.
like you cannot like 100% master in IT or in anything, because IT is ever evolving field. You cannot know every part of software development or every single thing about any tech stack. So at any point of time it may be the chance that you need help from someone else. So you have to be a team player, like that is a must.
Okay, so Rishika, a lot of people know that up till now know that uh, through DSA we can get into this software development role, right?
Right.
What else would you suggest, or what kind of preparation do a beginner need to keep in mind while getting into this role?
Yeah, so first thing that I suggest to every like my juniors who have contacted me for this particular doubt, like do some project, at least one or two development projects. Do your DSA, because of course the first online assessment round for for most of the companies is DSA based only. But in interviews they just don't ask about DSA question. They look for something they can discuss upon. There should be some projects where you can discuss with the interviewer why you choose MySQL database, why not non-relational database, what was the QPS, what was the user you targeted, and all kind of basic questions. They're not if you are a fresher, they're not targeting big or high level questions, but you should have some basic understanding of software development, like why you choose particular tech stack and why not the other, and some basic understanding basically. So that is why I suggest every junior that have some one or two projects, and good projects, not just that you have created a chat box or just a replica of some website. Not like that. You have implemented a feature where you understand the requirement first, user requirement, then you build that product, and then you ramp out to the targeted user, and then got the feedback. Basically completed the whole software development cycle. So yeah, do some projects. And but DSA is like, yeah, you should have a good practice on DSA also.
Yeah. I think combination of both of them is
True.
excellent. And
Right.
and what you said, right, keep project not make simple project. I also suggest this similar thing, that even if you're trying to make, chat box, have some one different feature or something different out of the box that you can add into a project which is already existing maybe, but it has a different feature which makes it
Right.
out of the box, the total project as out of the box. Exactly. So the next question is very very relatable, I think, to all of the people, because we kind of always presume, right, कि अच्छा इस role में हम जाने वाले हैं, so this set is going to be with us, or we are going to do this way, or I'm going to talk with my manager this way, this is going to be the whole team. So what did you expect, and what was the reality that you found out of this role of software developer?
Yeah, so honestly speaking, I came here with zero expectations because I was the first one who joined as a software development in my family. So like,
Oh,
I didn't have someone to look upon that, okay, this is how a
right,
software
right.
development life looks like. So I really didn't have the idea that what I'm going to do there, or what kind of culture
Hmm.
I will be able to experience. So with I came here with zero expectations, but now I have realized that it's kind of a normal job only. Like we fun together, and yeah, we make mistakes also. So there are bugs, there are things, like very normal things which happen in normal day-to-day life. So if you are it's just like if you are creating a group project with your friends, think it in that way. So if you're a college student, and if you're creating a project with your friends, think as if this is the team, and whoever is leading that team is your manager. So the manager
Right.
know the overall picture of the project, like he or she know the, like all the components of the project, and then individual person take care of one or two features. So it's the same way how like a real company team looks like. We all are team players, and we laugh, and we even play games. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they think of the software development role, right, think कि पूरा सुबह से लेकर शाम तक we have this one laptop, we have to sit and then code, and
Not
then
at
call
all.
manager, I've done this task, now what is the next one? Okay, then I'll code, and there is no, kind of a very one sync, one line task. But thank you for breaking again this myth that they are also humans, they laugh, they
Yeah.
code together. It's not just about coding, it's about a journey kind of key. We documented
Right.
stuff, we made up the things, we corrected all the thing in that.
True.
And one right way
Right.
you explained is, whenever we make a project in a team, it's kind of that, but it's kind of real. So the people who have worked in kind of startup, or started up something in their college
Right.
life, they could relate it to much more extent, because when you build a project just for the sake of putting it in resume, you do not think of the edge cases much, right? You do not
Right.
put emphasis कि अच्छा ठीक है ये भी हो सकता है, and then this can also happen. But when
Yeah.
we are doing a certain project in the whole real world, then we have to think a little bit to the more of the extent. So this is
Yeah.
what I feel.
And that is also
About.
related to the point we talked sometime like pehle we talked upon, that you should build projects which are a little bit different from the existing projects, because when you
Exactly.
work on different projects, you think about all the edge cases, you go deep into that
True.
project. It's not just that you are cloning someone else's repo, right? So
Exactly.
yeah, that
Exactly.
also covered that point.
Right. So we talked about DSA, that it's must have for a person who wants to get into this role, because it's kind
Yeah.
of clears our basics and all. If you were to start DSA all over again, how would you have started learning straight from learning a programming language? Like, assume yourself to be a very very beginner who does not know about any coding language and has to go into the role of software developer. what you now think would have been your path after a lot of experiences you have gained in between. What do you think now would the path have been?
So Mansi, I was a PCMB student in 11th and 12th. So
Oh,
like
nice.
the situation that you gave me was the situation I was in in my first year, and I had
Oh,
no
that's great.
yeah, I had no
We could
idea
relate
about
it to much better, right?
yeah. And as I said that I was the first one in my family to go into software development, so even I didn't have that kind of support, right? So it was like I just went to college, I entered from the door, and now I don't know what to do next. I don't know what language to learn, which platforms to consider, and like it's all about exploring things and find the right language and tech stack for you. So yeah, that was my path, and even at that time I was not aware about the difference between competitive programming and DSA. So I
Right.
directly went into coding on CodeChef. It was like I started learning loops and if else statements, switches, and basic of C++, and then I said okay, let's practice, and I directly jump into CodeChef. So someone suggested me to solve some of the CodeChef problems, which are like easy one, so just to get started with it. So then I started, and when you start you will eventually grow, because at the first time you submitted a wrong like solution, but after 10th iteration your like solution will finally get submitted, and then after, for the next question maybe you will be able to submit your solution at the second time, and then that's how you grow. So that was my strategy. I directly jumped into CodeChef, and in my like after completing first year, then I realized okay, DSA is different from competitive programming, and in companies, like in basic interviews, DSA is the thing that is being asked, or that is something which I should prepare for online assessment rounds. So then I started like practicing DSA, but after doing 1 year of competitive programming, DSA was comparatively easy for me. So it happens that when you solve a bigger problem, other problem seems little easy to you, right? So
Exactly.
that's it.
Yeah,
That
wanna
yeah.
wanna have a break over here and would let everyone know of my audience that what is the difference between competitive programming and DSA, and which one should we go up with when software development role is considered.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
So you can say that competitive programming is a bigger version of DSA. Like DSA is basic data structures and algorithm. Like you will be given a standard algorithm, for example, Bellman Ford, right? So you have that algorithm for to yourself, and now someone will ask you to implement it. So now you know that what that algorithm is, and you just now have to code it. But in competitive programming, there's a different kind of problem, and you have to tweak that algorithm according to the problem set, and maybe you have to combine multiple problems together to solve that particular problem. So you can say that data structures and algorithm is the basic, and competitive programming is the bigger version of DSA, with a little bit of competitive vibes in it, because there's always a competition where you are participating, right? Competitive programming is basically means there will be a timer, and you have to solve the problem within the given time. So that is the basic difference. So you like that is why for every beginner it is suggested that you should start with DSA first, basic data structures and algorithm. You should understand and learn the standard algorithms which are available, and you should know how they are implemented, and how they like how it covers all the edge cases, and then you should move to the competitive programming side, because in competitive programming it's all like you have to combine multiple algorithms together, and then you have to cover all the edge cases by yourself. So that is the basic difference. But I did that path in a reverse way. I started with competitive programming, and then I switched to DSA. That is why the transition was little easy for me, because I was able to solve competitive programming questions. So I
Exactly.
suggest in that way that okay, if you have learned the basics of DSA, try to at least solve maybe first question of code forces, the a problem, which is very easy to solve. And in code chef you can go on questions which are marked as easy, and then you can try to solve them, and you can even go through the tutorials. But in DSA I do not suggest to go through the tutorials at all, because I what I have seen, people who who read out the tutorials and who read out the solutions and then try to solve those questions by themselves. After a few weeks they forgot what they did, how they solved that
Right.
question. And that is because for that particular moment they got that how that question is being solved using the algorithm, but after some time, because it's about memory, right? Because they have not solved it by themselves, so that is why they forgot. So yeah, like on competitive programming I suggest to go through the tutorial because there are multiple ways to solve a particular problem, but in DSA there is a standard algorithm, so you should learn why that algorithm is working for that particular question, right? So do not try to go through the solution at least for one day. Even if you are not able to solve a particular problem in a day, it's completely fine. Starting में सबको delay होता है, मुझे भी हुआ था, like ऐसा होता है कि you are solving that question in your dreams also, so it happens with everyone. But eventually you learn and you grow. Yeah.
Okay, so what are the platforms that you practiced on, or after an experience you suggest to the people ki, you can start up with this platform and then eventually turn up to this platform? Some coding platforms which is good for beginners and then advanced level.
Yeah. So for DSA, you can start with Geek for Geeks or Lead Code. Lead Code is a better version in terms of they show that how optimized your code is, how optimize your code in terms of memory and time limit. So all those stats are there in Lead Code. But in Geeks for Geeks, you will be able to solve that question and find out if your submission was correct or not. And also in Lead Code, like it was more compliant, like edge cases compliant. Like there are multiple edge cases in Lead Code. It may be the case that the same solution has been submitted on Geek for Geeks, but it is showing wrong answer on Lead Code. It can be possible and it has happened to me also. So but still for beginners I suggest Geek for Geeks because like the user experience is little bit easy on Geek for Geeks, so you can start with that. And they have like a well structured courses, also free structured courses. So one I can share is Must Do Interview Preparation, something like that. That was the name of the course, and it has all the questions, all the standard questions which are generally being asked to companies with the particular tag, with the company tag
Oh,
also. So it's like you have 200 questions of arrays, then 200 questions of string, then 100 questions of trees, and that kind of structure. So you know that what kind of questions you have to practice to get ready for online assessment rounds, right? So you can use Geek for Geeks, and in Lead Code also there are company tags, but I think like for beginners they can start with Geek for Geeks. And for competitive programmings you should first start with Code Chef, and Code Forces is like a bigger version, so you can do it parallel
yeah,
maybe. Yeah, like some questions of Code Chef and regularly participating in Code Forces rounds and evaluate how good you are growing, and what are the loopholes, what are the areas to improve, and all these stuff.
Okay, so I have seen, and also a lot of people in my community, so have this Telegram group also, wherein we have a lot of people and we can kind of discuss about all the opportunities, the off-campus opportunities and things we have in that group. So a lot of people have this question that they want to give up this competitive coding and DSA just because their problems are not able to run, and apart from spending a lot of time on particular question, they're not able to do that, right? It happens to all of us, right? Wanted to know that how was your approach towards this problem and how did you solve, because eventually a lot of people tell me, and I've also faced this, that we kind of tend to forget what the algorithm was,
Right.
how did we approach it, the time complexity, how will we minimize it. So what was your approach towards this? Did you maintain a copy or something, or how did you did
Yeah.
all this?
Yeah, so as I said, it mostly happened because most of the people just go through the solution and then they think that okay, now I know the solution and now I have understood it. But in long terms, they because it's just in their memory, they didn't realized how that algorithm is solving the problem, right? So
Yeah.
I would suggest not to go through the tutorials for DS especially. Even if you are taking maybe 2 to 3 days for one question, it's completely fine. But once you solve that question, that particular algorithm will stick to your mind. You will not be able to forget it. And even not for that particular question, you will be able to use that algorithm and tweak it and use it in different questions. So
Right, right,
yeah,
exactly.
so like I can remember in my early days, there was this one question. I was participating in long challenge of code chef, and the long challenge was about to end in somewhere in 4 of afternoon, and I was just rushing up that I am not able to do this question, I am not able to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. And then finally, after like doing a lot of retries, finally my solution got submitted, and I still know that that was a difficult question to do. And I still know that
Right.
algorithm, that there was some binary search and there was some tree related algorithm. I like there were multiple algorithms together, and I had to cross and combine them to give the final solution. So yeah, then my suggestion would be not to go through the solutions for DSA. And but yes, after completing like after you have submitted your solution correctly, then you can go through all the solution, like to understand what
And
could be the
see,
better
yeah,
approach, right? So that is a
absolutely.
good thing to do. But if you haven't solved that question, and if you're thinking that okay, I have given a lot of time on that question and now I can just go through the solution, don't do that, because in long terms it will not at all like help you. So
Exactly. I
yeah.
think in I think every algorithm has this one brute force approach,
Right.
and we all should go and strike at least that brute force approach before
Hmm.
knowing what algorithm says or what is the best time complexity to do that particular problem. Once we're
Right.
able to strike that brute force approach, we definitely should go to solutions and see कि और क्या क्या ways हैं करने के,
True.
right?
True.
Because whenever we get to know a lot of ways, क्या अच्छा, ठीक है, we have ABCDE ways of doing this particular question, then our mind kind of broadens कि अच्छा ठीक है, I solved this way, but see, this is
Hmm.
easier
Right.
way to do that, right?
Right.
That is what you actually wanted to combine and tell कि do not see the
Yeah.
solution straight away, because whenever we want
Right.
to know कि अच्छा ABC या solution है इस problem के, our mind is never going to come and get ABC solutions for other similar problems of what we did.
Right.
But once
Right.
we spend a lot of time brainstorming and making our brain think कि भाई सोचो इसका प्रॉब्लम क्या होगा, and then
Yeah.
it kind of remembers till longer time. जब हमने किसी चीज में स्ट्रगल
True.
की होती है, हमें वो चीज काफी दिन तक देर तक याद रहती है, instead of
True.
किसी को बुला लिया भाई कर दो इस चीज को और उसको बता दिया तो
Yeah.
बिल्कुल भी नहीं याद रहती. That is so similar to what our life looks like. Acha, one more question I have is that a lot of people have this question again in mind कि eventually तो हम कुछ we are making up something, we are making up a project, right?
Hmm.
In software development, software engineering role, but
Right.
then why are we actually learning DSA, and why are we actually learning this because basic programming everyone knows कि ठीक है,
Hmm.
this is the
Right.
while loop, this is the for loop, this is the if loop and everything. Why are we
Yeah.
actually going into the circle of DSA and competitive programming just to crack up this particular role? Any views of yours on that, being a
Yeah, I
software
have a
developer?
very solid view on that. So from
Right.
my personal experience, I can share that I have literally implemented recursion and dynamic programming in my prod code, like in my
Oh,
production code.
nice.
So it's not like DSA is complete waste of time. It will give a very good way to understand how a real time complexity looks like, how to evaluate your complexity of code, and how to write a good and clean code, and all those stuff. And even as I said, ki I have used even recursion in my production code. So if you're not aware about DSA, how would you be able to solve that problem, right? So it depends on the kind of project, I would say. If your project is really heavy on backend, then you should be very good with data structures and algorithm and all the optimization part. But if your project is more of front end oriented, then DSA is not much of use, because it's more of designing and developing the UI. But like yeah, in backend we really do all these things like count frequencies, implementing like recursion optimization, how to do indexing of database and all those stuff. And these are the core of data structures and algorithm. So
True, true.
it's a complete myth that data structures and algorithm are of no use. We use them in companies, and I think it's a good way to evaluate everyone on the same line, right? Otherwise, what
Right.
should be the criteria to compare between two individuals? There should be some criteria, there should be some syllabus to say that okay, this is the
Right.
syllabus you have to, if you are able to complete that syllabus, then I think you are good to have on this position. You would be able to switch to the new tech stack, you will be able to understand the whole requirement thing, and you will be able to develop products. So I think data structures and algorithm is a good way to like, yeah, to compare between two individuals.
Right. I think one benchmark should be there. कि अच्छा, इस basis
Right.
पे we're gonna measure a lot of students, because eventually we are writing code, we are developing something, and software developers are for that particular role only, right? कि
Right.
make code and write code, and code does not needs to be a brute force of code, right? It has to be a
Right.
optimized code. So that is the
Right.
reason we kind of learn all these algorithms and implement it.
And even
Thank
Mansi,
you. Yeah.
yeah, even Mansi, for like, this is what I have seen different for like many companies now, that for different roles they have different assessment types. So for example, for DSA, like for software development they have DSA thing, but maybe for different profiles they give some task for to you to solve that, solve that particular task and send the final result or your solution to them, and they will proceed after. So there are different type of criteria for different profiles. It's not just that if you have done DSA then you are good to go for
Hmm.
like any company and
True.
for all the roles. So it depends on roles and depends on company. So I would suggest you to go through that, how, like, what company you are targeting and how that company is approaching to
Yes.
the hiring process. Yeah.
Correct. And I think apart from just focusing on DSA, one should also focus on the soft skills, that is
Right.
communication, and work on that as well. Because even if the first two rounds of majority of the companies they select on the basis of DSA, but eventually after the HR round, or the third, fourth round that each company has, one looks upon how you are as an individual. Are you
Right.
coachable or not, right? All those things are very, very important as well for the software developer role. Thank you so much, Rishika, for coming up for this episode number one, that is on software developer and software developer role. I think a lot of myths have been cleared away right here. Ki, what is this role? Is it straight away related to coding or not? And a lot more. Thank you so much. And I'm so happy to have this first episode with you and starting it right.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a lovely conversation, Mansi. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, take care.